Our inspiration was quite centred on the materiality of the building and particularly the material history of the area. It's got a lot of beautiful brick buildings that we found very interesting and we wanted to be part of that history, right up to Glen-Gery's recent building for UTS, which also reinvents the way brick is used. And we particularly like the way in a lot of these buildings they use different bricks for different purposes, and that gave the surface of the building a very interesting kind of texture and materiality and level of detail and craft. And we really wanted to think about how that could be implemented in a new multi-residential building.
With our ambitions to explore and kind of use brick in different textures and light, finishes and shapes and things like that, having brickworks and the engagement with brickworks in developing those finishes for us really made a difference, and it proved, I guess, to the client that it was achievable, it was feasible, and it could be delivered. We had a great design ambition to be able to use the brick in a conventional and traditional way of detailing, but have very subtle changes with the finish, with the shapes, and with the different colours and the way that we articulated the building. Brickworks came in and worked very hard with us to develop a fantastic opal finish that didn't exist at the time. In addition to that, it was the detailing, the prototypes that were made to prove to the client that not only could we achieve the aesthetic vision that we were really aiming for, but it was feasible and it could be delivered. I think it's a really good example of how the industry should be working, which is really about collaboration. There are so many minds and so many hands that complete a project, and when we work together we come up with some great innovative solutions, not only from a design sense but from a delivery sense as well. And I think that this project is a real testament to that.
I'm hoping that the brick and that connection with the history ties the building quite strongly into its place, but also does it in a way that makes people reconsider brick. I think there's a whole new approach to brickwork happening in Australia and certainly Sydney, which we're part of.
At the core of it, it's choosing a material for a high-rise application that is going to have longevity, that is robust, that's going to add to the character of not just the building but its immediate streetscape and of its place. Hopefully we'll be able to see more buildings of this kind of scale use a material that is much more robust and has character.
I started working with the architects from Tzannes in September 2014, so it's been a long process getting from those first initial drawings to where we are today. I met with Ben Green, who's one of the directors, at our Sydney design studio, and we started talking about this project in the city which was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. The project was 20 stories of brickwork, and I was thinking, in the heart of the city, we haven't seen a project like this since the end of the 19th century. It seemed like such a fantasy that something like this was going to come back to Sydney and we'd have the opportunity to be involved in such a landmark for our city. So one of the first challenges for me was working with the architects to figure out these corners of the building that weren't going to be at right angles. They were at acute angles or obtuse angles, or they were coming together with curves, and it was getting the spatial awareness working on how those bricks would come together, how they could be pressed in the moulds, be released and physically be produced as a solid element. So by creating so many special shapes for the building, we're making sure that each corner is purpose-made to ensure it's durable and has the right finish characteristics and colour characteristics as well. There is a timeless quality to the brickwork, grounded in Sydney's architectural heritage and rising up to reflect the sky above. When I was speaking with the director from Tzannes, he had a vision for a brick that would subtly reflect the light and just be a subtle textural change from our traditional solid bricks to a slight gloss that would be reflected obliquely when you view the building from an angle. At the time, we talked through a lot of different options. We talked about applying a glaze to the brick. We talked about matching the colour of the brick with a matching coloured glaze or a clear coloured glaze. But the factory at Bowral isn't set up and the finish isn't particularly well suited to a glazed finish. So that's when we started developing what are the other options to give a brick a gloss finish. And we came up with the polishing process that creates the same colour, just with that subtle textural variation that the architects wanted.
So when I first saw the drawings of the building, I thought to myself, this will be an extremely challenging job for us as brickmakers because most of the facade is all brick. We then obviously went through the process of reviewing the bricks themselves, and after developing different toolings and different drawings, we realized that this was something we could actually do and we could push the boundaries. There's some shapes when we started the job which we were still concerned about, but after doing some trials we eventually got there and we managed to make very good shapes. The different shaped bricks, we've got different testings that we do, and we can test the integrity of the brick through our NADA lab. And we do a series of trials originally before we finalise the product. We send it for testing to our NADA lab, and they do all the structural and the tests that are involved with all our bricks as well. So we've got two colours that have always been the signature colours at Bowral, which are Bowral Blues and Renovation Gertrudis Brown. And these were the colours which the architect specified. So we've been making products in those different colours for a long, long time now. So for this particular job, the architect requested that we have a special smooth finish on our dry press bricks. This is the process of getting this finish. We cannot achieve that in our normal production process. So we had to add a different process to that, which is the polishing of the bricks. They have different shapes, they've got different polished faces. So you've got the same brick, which might have two different polished faces. And that has taken the overall number of shapes to over 70 bricks. So in total, there's over 500,000 bricks for the project.
I didn't know we could do that with bricks. And I thought, what a challenge. And it was exciting. I was used to develop new products, so I thought it was normal, but the rest of the team was like, wow, new shapes like that, we can't make them. But no, like by working together, we managed to do that, to go there. It was such a challenge to manage to do these bricks and being unique. Not anyone else can do that. Out of this factory, we are making 350,000 bricks for this project. The biggest challenge is get all these different shapes going through all the robots. The robots are all conceived to manipulate only rectangle bricks. And we had all these angles and all this radial that we had to manipulate with the robots. And we couldn't crush them. Before they are fired, the bricks are soft. So if you grip them with a robot, then you just damage the angle or damage the radial. So we had to find a solution to handle all these green bricks without damaging them in the machines. For the team, the first one involved had to be the quality manager, and he went through all the specifications for each product to define what we needed to do for these bricks. The technical team was also heavily involved to work on the die, to test the die, and to adapt the tooling for pre-cutting, cutting, so that they would match the shapes. The operators were the last to be involved, but they were not the less of that. They had to spend hours to do the bricks. We spent around 4 times longer to extrude these bricks compared to the normal bricks. So the days were very long, but at the end everyone was very proud of the result.
The uniqueness of this project was that you've got a lot of shapes. You've got also unique acute angles. It's a type of heritage style of work, and incorporating in a modern building, it hasn't been seen for quite some time. On the job there was over 600,000 bricks laid.
This really changed the game that bricks are perceived in the commercial industry. We're now entering an era of endless possibilities when it comes to brick making, and Darling Square is a real positive achievement working towards that.
I'm in awe. Yeah, I'm in awe. It's an amazing building. It speaks for itself.
Over the years, we've worked closely with Tzannes, Lend-Lease, TTW and Favetti to achieve an exceptional outcome on this project. 5 years later, the project is now finished, the retail spaces are opening and there's a real buzz in the area as people are really enjoying the amenities and making the most of the new precinct in Sydney. This is the tallest brick building that has been built in Sydney in nearly 100 years. Brick is inspiring some of the best new architecture coming out of Australia and throughout the world. Architects are always inspiring us to push the boundaries of what our products can achieve, and Darling Square is a true testament to that.